Is Clemson gearing up to finally sue the ACC over grant of rights? That's what we're going to talk about today. It is March the 10th, 2024. We're about 24 weeks from college football's week 0. We're about 25 weeks from college football's week 1. That's the weekend, August the 31st, when Clemson plays Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm just dying for it to be here. I'm glad you're here on Clemson Football Live. I'm Brian. If you like what I'm doing, I hope you'll, first of all, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. You've been watching for a while. I've had people come up to me and go, I've been watching for a while, and I've never subscribed. I just realize it, and they subscribe. It's free. It's a great way to support the show without dropping a dime. So I do appreciate this. So I'm going to tell you that the whole battle between Florida State and the ACC, Clemson and the ACC, then they backed off, and now according to an article, and I'll get to that in just a second, from Yahoo Sports, and then it was repeated by Clemson Wire. This is something that I was even kind of wondering what's going on with Clemson and their approach to the ACC and this whole grant of rights TV deal, blah, blah, blah. And there's so many moving parts of it. Now, for some of you, you're already like, look, grant of rights has already been put in stone. It is what it is. We can't get out of it. And I'm going to address that in just a second. I'm going to try to make this a quick video because we could draw this out over and over. And yes, I'm a guy who can ramble and talk a lot. All right, I will do it. But I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible because there are more moving parts than that and more ideas to consider. Now, I want to just throw out there that suing someone costs a lot of money. We need to keep this in mind as we're thinking about Clemson suing the ACC, as Florida State is suing the ACC, as other schools might join in the lawsuits. It costs a lot of money to sue someone. Now, do this research for yourself and look it up. If you have a company who has a lot of money and someone starts to sue them, a lot of times they'll quickly settle before they go through with the lawsuit. Well, Brian, that's because they're afraid they're going to lose. No. It's because even in winning, they may actually pay out more than the settlement. Not always, but a lot of times, because lawsuits are expensive. Now, I agree with one of the rebuttals to Clemson or Florida State or any of these schools suing the ACC. One of the rebuttals to me was, well, you got to remember the ACC has their lawyers and they're really good. You are right. But the thought I want to lead off with is in the Clemson community, and you know that the Clemson community has lawyers all associated with it, former alumni, lawyers who work for donors or work with donors at Clemson. I'm talking about major money people. Spun my words around here. I'm like Michael Scott. Oh, how the turntables. I messed that up. So these lawyers who are associated with the Clemson community would look at the Clemson leaders and say, listen, we have looked this over. There's no way out of it. You are wasting money. We could take this money and put it towards, I don't know, the football team. We could put it towards a beautiful building on campus. We could put it towards cleaner toilets at Death Valley. I don't know. But they're not doing that. They're not. That should be the first thing you should think about. Why are the lawyers that are associated with the Clemson community, even if they're not involved in this, they're not the ones who's being written the checks to go sue the ACC, so they're not making money from it. They're just associated with it. Why aren't they speaking up and going, there's no way out? Unless there is a way out. Now, you need to understand something else. There is a date, and I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this, and this all started with an article from this past Friday from a guy with Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger. I don't know much about the guy, but it dealt with the title of the article is "With College Football Playoff Format and Future Revenue Influx, Here's What's on the Table." So this was not about Clemson and the ACC. This was talking about the overall environment of college football. And he says this, you go on down the article, and it's a long article. What's the ACC's place in the new college football format? I'm trying to jump around this just to save some time, and I'll try to read fast as well. The college football playoffs further delineation of the power structure in the industry likely exacerbates the ACC's plight in keeping some of its biggest brands from exiting. The gap in the revenue distribution model may further incentivize programs to follow Florida State's example at a legal attempt to exit. As their television deal falls further financially behind the Power Two, which is the Big Ten and the SEC, ACC schools like Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech met independently last year. We all know about this. Let's talk about the grant of rights. Leading the expedition were Florida State and Clemson, the two most disgruntled and perhaps valuable programs seeking a new conference. Now, there's a court date that's been set later for the spring with Florida State. Attorneys for Clemson have spent the last several months gearing up for legal action of their own. Sources with knowledge of the discussions tell Yahoo Sports. More secession attempts, could send the conference into chaos. The outcomes of any Florida State or Clemson exit, can they break free of the grant of rights, may chart a path for the other members of this seven, most notably North Carolina, the most attractive of the programs. Going, and here's the biggie. Just stick with me. Could the seven independently leave the league and reform as a smaller, more valuable conference? Could a subset of the seven join a new conference, the Big 12, SEC, or Big 10? Here we go. A date looms. Here's the one that very few people ever breathe a word about. Trust me, I've read the forums. I've read your comments online on my channel, on other channels. A date looms as a possible inflection point in the ACC's future. While ESPN's contract with the ACC extends through 2036, the network, talking about ESPN, has the option to opt out of the final 9 years starting in 2027, a way that ESPN itself could possibly reopen the grant of rights or at the very least restructure the deal. Could a restructured deal with uneven distribution prevent more departures? Would an ESPN opt-out swing open the door for more schools to exit? The network must exercise the option, talking about ESPN must exercise the option by February 2025. We're 11 months from that. In the Roman world, it was said that if you were arrested and brought up on charges, that you could appeal to Caesar. I appeal to Caesar, which means supposedly you could not be dealt with by the local magistrate. You would have to actually go stand before Caesar or whatever that process is. I'm not an expert on that, but it has been said that could be done. Right now, another angle of this is that Clemson, Florida State, and any of these other schools who has the, hair on their chest to appeal to ESPN is actually appealing to ESPN like, would you hear us? We want to be part of these two super conferences that's been pulled together. I mean, I know Clemson has other, and these schools as well, they have other sources of income other than TV. They do. It's not all TV. But their amount of TV revenue versus the Big 12 school, or not Big 12, Big 10 or SEC schools, laughable. I mean, we're talking about $10 million behind these schools. And so Clemson's appealing to ESPN. Florida State's appealing to ESPN. Hey, listen. We need you to make this go away. You can make it go away. And you know that we would be more valuable in the SEC or the Big Ten. Imagine the Big Ten planting their flag in the backyard of the SEC, and one or both of those schools being Clemson and Florida State. That would be a slap in the face of the SEC and a flippin' bold move by the Big Ten, because why? The Big Ten has a team from west to east in the middle of the country, but they don't have anywhere in the Southeastern Conference. Of course, where there's that AAU or whatever it's called, qualification, they will make a waiver when there's this much money involved. I know a lot of you are already turning red in the face, screaming at the TV. Listen to me. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be very offensive to both of us. Peons like you and I, $20,000 is a lot of money to us. It's a lot of money to us. Most of us who's watching this, $20,000 is a lot of money. A lot of us watching this, $10 million is a lot of money to us. We are dealing with large institutions, multi-team deals, multi-billion-dollar deals. To get a multi-billion-dollar deal done, they are not going to allow some academic standard to stand in the way to keep them from getting the multi-billion-dollar deal done. Because remember, college sports is no longer about the student athlete. I agree with Nick Saban. And if it was based on the education of the students, you would have less sociology majors who can't get a good job after they graduate. No, you don't have to be a nuclear physicist major. But going and getting a degree of how to weave belly button lint into a sock as a 4-year degree, and you don't make it in the NFL, I got that piece of paper, it means nothing. So it is not about education anymore. Would y'all stop believing that flipping lie? It hadn't been that way for a long time. So remembering that, the Big Ten, they'll give some type of period to these schools to get certain credentials, because unlike you and I, qualifications and a ton of money doesn't matter. That's why some of you can't get what's going on, is because you're tied. You yourself, if you sign some type of deal, buddy, you're on the hook for it. You know why? Because you don't have the money to pay yourselves out. Me too. I'm not insulting you. I'm saying that towards both of us. They're operating on a different spectrum than you and I. Whole other dimension. And I want to go back to the first point about suing the ACC. Do you know what it makes the ACC look like? That a bunch of their schools are suing them to get out of a conference they don't want to be in? Do you know what that makes the SEC look, or the ACC look like? Do you know what that makes them? It makes them look terrible. And then, as Selm has pointed out, you have a lawsuit that's going on. Listen to this. You have a lawsuit that's going on in Florida. You have a separate lawsuit going on that was going on in North Carolina, because the ACC was working. Wherever the lawsuit is at, you have to have a group of attorneys there. If Clemson opens up a lawsuit, I do believe that would be in the state of South Carolina, so you have to have another group of lawyers there working on it. Lawsuits are expensive. I always use The Office reference, the TV show The Office. Michael Scott looks at David Wallace, the CEO, and he said, look, I started my little company to go up against you, because he had his feelings hurt. You didn't need to go watch the episode. He said, I don't have to outlast the company. All I have to do is outlast you because I'm hurting your business so much, and they'll find a new CEO. That's what they'll do. In this scenario, the ACC is going to be bleeding money. And Florida State and Clemson and whoever else who wants to join is just buying their time, making their appeal to Caesar, making their appeal to the ESPN football minds, the college sports minds, because a lot of this deals with football, but, all sports, blah, blah, blah. All sports are involved here, but we just care about football. That is where this is going, folks. They're trying to overwhelm the ACC in the legal process. They're trying to overwhelm the ACC in the sense of, hey, I know that some people went and signed some deals and they shouldn't have. But if there was not a way out, the lawyers that are associated with these schools that are not part of the lawsuit, they're just fans, they're alumni, they work with alumni, but they're not receiving any pay for this lawsuit. They would say, listen, you've got to drop this. You're wasting funds. You're wasting resources, and you're making yourself look bad. You can't win this unless they can. Or unless they're not trying to win it. They're trying to push ESPN's hand to let them out of the deal, restructure it, allowing Clemson or Florida State to go to another school, followed by whoever. And right now, ESPN is completely and totally in control of college sports, college football. You want to know why you have a bunch of trashy bowl games? How we went from, 10 bowl games to 50? That's an overstatement. But you know what I'm saying. A ton of them, and they're awful. ESPN. Yeah. ESPN created this. The good and the ugly. ESPN created. ESPN holds this much weight that all they have to do is step in and go, hey, Florida State, Clemson, you have been heard. We're going to rework the deal with the ACC and give you the chance to go to our babies. Either the SEC or our foe of the Big Ten, who has a deal with, NBC, Fox. Who's the other one? CBS? Folks, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm telling you, I believe it's coming. Because this is a business move. This deals nothing with tradition. This deals nothing with a handshake is as good as it's bond, or a word is as good as it's bond. I mean, all that bunch of stuff, it's gone, okay? I'm not saying that that's a good thing that it's gone, but the rules that you and I have to live by day in and day out, when you get multi-billion-dollar organizations involved, they don't play by the same rules. They don't. Especially if you can A, pay your way out of it, or cost the other side so much money and so much humiliation that they just let you out. I want to know what you think in the comments section below. Please drop that in there. And I appreciate it. I appreciate any comments you drop in here. I just ask you, I always throw this out there. Please be specific. Just be specific why you believe what you believe. You don't have to, but I'm begging you to. Because if you've got a good point to make, I can't read your mind. You have to lay it out logically. I ask you to do that. But I appreciate you being here. Hey, I've joined the College Huddle. The College Huddle is a group of YouTube personalities and podcasters who focuses on their college teams. I've been asked to represent Clemson. Eric Boggs over at the Ohio Podcast reached out to me and said, hey, man, would you consider it? I thought about it. I was like, hey, I'm still me. I still control what I say. They don't have control over my name, image, likeness, So I was like, hey, yeah, absolutely. So it was an honor. I will be joining them, or I have joined them. It will launch sometime in April. So be looking out for that. I'll give you more details. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing. Please subscribe. And remember, it's free. Also, if you want to join on a monthly basis, there is a join button below the video. You won't see it on an iPhone for some reason. It's really weird. Either $3 per month or $5 per month. 2 different tiers. It's the same. It's just whether you want to support the channel for $3 or $5 per month. Folks, I do appreciate it. We're getting close to the spring game. It will be here before you know it. As always, go Tigers.